Hi there. Olga Teunis is joining me from the Netherlands, where she is a career and development coach, supporting people with a wide variety of work issues, stress management, and personal development support. Olga is a certified master practitioner and instructor in logosynthesis. She works with individuals to get unstuck so that their energy is available for what matters most. Thank you for joining me, Olga. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you, Cathy. Thanks for inviting me. I'm looking forward to it.
Good. So to start, I always like to see how they were introduced to logosynthesis. Could you tell us how you were introduced to it and what made you curious to explore the model?
Certainly. I think logosynthesis popped up in my life about 10 years ago. I think it was 2012 or 2013. And the first time I think I read about it in an email message from a colleague who said, there's this seminar and I can't attend, but maybe it's something for some of you. And I looked at it and I didn't know it and I wasn't interested. But shortly after the second time it was mentioned, a colleague was discussing how she had noticed a logosynthesis intervention that a colleague had done during a lunch break. And this was a reliable source, but I found it very hard to believe. So that caused a bit of curiosity. And then the third time, it was actually a first-hand experience that really got me hooked. I was at a symposium for burnout coaches, and a fellow practitioner from the Netherlands, Ada Groeneveld, was doing a little group demo, an exercise. And she asked us to remember a recent incident that had stressed us. Now, people who know me know that I'm not the Zen goddess, but I couldn't think of any incidents at the time. And so for the exercise, I picked something that happened the day before, a traffic incident. But I thought it was very insignificant and I hadn't even thought about it if not for this exercise. So she got us reliving this moment and really connecting to it, and then checking the body to see if there were any stress symptoms. And to my surprise, I noticed that actually my body did react. And so I realized that the incident had probably made a bigger impression than I thought. So the next thing she asked us to repeat out loud in a group of about 100 or maybe 150 people, these really strange sentences. And I did not enjoy that experience at all. I did not like, well, I had a lot of internal dialogue going on. I'm not believing this. This is really weird. How is she thinking that this is going to work? It's really odd. Maybe it's something with self-hypnosis. I was totally irritated. So you can guess how surprised I was when she asked us to check in again. And I checked my body and I noticed that there was nothing. I was completely calm. The incident of yesterday was just like, oh, yeah, it happened. And so that got me fascinated. I thought, this is working even though I am in full resistance mode.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we hear that quite often. And what's interesting too is when you kind of talked about the fact that you didn't think you were stressed out, which quite often I can relate to, but when you connect with the actual incident, it takes you right back. And it's like, yeah, there was stress there, but we're so used to just brushing it off as nothing.
Or pushing it away.
Yeah. And our body's still reacting to it, right? Those stress symptoms are still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after that, I registered for the first basic seminar that was available. And after those 3 days, and I started working with clients, I basically followed Willem all over the European continent to do all the seminars to become a certified practitioner.
We're waiting for you to come to the North American continent and and join us here.
I will, as soon as I can.
Good. Yeah. So if you think of describing your coaching supports that you offer, the services that you offer, can you describe a little bit what types of struggles people come to you with and a little bit about the results that they notice? And I'm thinking maybe not everybody's quite as apprehensive or disbelieving maybe, but maybe
Mhm.
people are. I don't know how do people show up in your office and then what do they notice?
Well, the majority of coaching I do is actually facilitated by employers. So a lot of the issues that people present with are work related or career related or stress issues, work-life balance, um, recovering from burnout, but also developing certain skills or leadership skills or communication issues, conflicts at the workplace, um, and also dealing with loss or cleaning up unfinished business when people notice that they're losing energy because of certain things that have happened that they can't really shake loose. um, yeah, so it's actually in general it is about development. People notice something isn't working or isn't working anymore, and they have to find a new way, or they want to find a new way that better suits them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I find, among my peers, a lot of people at this stage in their life work that kind of got mastered in a lot of ways, but then things are happening in their personal lives. There's things happening to their parents or their children, or they need their energy for things outside of work. And a lot of times we downplay the need to provide support and resources, but if we're drained from all our home responsibilities, that also affects our work responsibilities and vice versa, right? And so do you find that if they come through work, that there's an element of personal that benefits from it, that also benefits their work?
Absolutely. I mean, you can't really separate the work from the person. People are who they are as a person at work. And luckily, more and more employers also facilitate the opportunity for employees to develop. And also, I work with entrepreneurs or independent professionals and private clients as well. So when people start coaching, I find they're actually um, they easily open up, and they find it a relief to be able to openly talk about what's going on in their life, and not having to keep up the public image of being successful and having everything under control. And society sometimes seems to require this from us.
Yeah, and those societal pressures are also something that we end up taking on without always recognizing how much weight that has. And I know in a group that we were working with, it was, you know, um, my counterparts who were busy working moms would be maybe a term that I would use at that stage. And there was an element very successful and doing very well in a lot of elements of their life, but there was this feeling that I should do more. And you kind of think, where do we pick up that
Mhm.
belief, and how much does that weigh on us every day? Yeah. Is that one that comes up in your work a lot? The belief around I should do more and I'm responsible for it all?
Oh, it does all the time. And not just for busy moms. I think a lot of dads actually want to be very conscious parents, and they want to contribute to both the household and the upbringing of the kids. And they do feel this dual pressure as well. So yes, it's in a lot of people, and we pick it up from everywhere. I would almost say we do. It's in the air, it's in society, but of course it's also in the well-intentioned remarks that our parents or school or gives us about, trying your best and try hard and, give it all you have. And
Yeah.
don't give up.
A little to your point when you talked in the beginning that you are like, oh, I'm Zen and I don't really have anything that bothers me. This idea, this feeling that we feel like we should do more and that we're responsible for it all, we often are not even really aware that we're walking around with that pressure. And then when we sit down with it and notice where it is in our body, it's that tension in our shoulders, right? The tightness in our shoulders. And a lot of people feel it in their chest or their head might be pounding. And those are the types of physical responses, stress responses that we're feeling kind of day in, day out without even being aware of it. And so then people say, well, what's different when you use logosynthesis? Well, it's interesting because after those sentences and it shifts, then all of a sudden it sounds a little silly that you're responsible for everything or that you're working so hard and you should do more still. Like people are like, well, they're laughing like that feels silly. And it's not to say that they're not responsible, like feeling like they can be responsible, but that the expectation is just unrealistic, right? And so then their energy is available to actually work on doing something and they feel lighter and calmer. And yeah.
Yes, it's interesting. I was actually talking to a client this morning, and at a certain point, she said, well, she was stressed and anxious, and she mentioned, it feels like if I don't do it, it won't be done. And the next sentence she says is, well, that used to be the case, but it's no longer true. So this was really interesting. She realizes that she wasn't even responding to the reality that was going on around her. She was in a new relationship, and this new partner was actually responding to her needs, and the situation was different. But earlier experiences had, sort of tainted the glasses through which she was looking at the world. So what she was experiencing was almost the echo of earlier experience. And so that's what logosynthesis is so great at. It helps clean the glasses. What's fascinating is that she can be aware of it. She can realize, she can know that this is not what's going on here and now, but still the reaction is the same. So almost as if the past is present in the room and it's impeding the view. But so after you say the sentences, you see what are the facts, what is going on, what is the real challenge there, and you have your resources and your energy and your knowledge and your skills available to deal with what is going on.
Yeah, and those beliefs
That's
are
enough.
so strong, right? Yeah, exactly. But those beliefs that we have instilled from a very young age are so strong. Like I keep saying, I was raised on a busy dairy farm and hurry up and work hard. And, I've carried those with me. And it's not to say that it's not important to work hard and hurry up, but when your whole body is going like that, in a corporate environment, that's not always the best energy to bring to the corporate environment because nobody can work fast enough for me or nobody can work hard enough, right? And so if I bring that energy into it, it can be disruptive because other people feel that and then there's tension. And so if I resolve my reactions that I'm not in, kind of stuck in that reactive mode, then I can be like, okay, these are the things that have to get done. How are we going to do it? And I was going to say, one of the things that quite often happens when people do the sentences is afterwards they say, I have a team to help me. Like there's a realization that it's more than just them. Like I have a team to help me. I have resources that I can access. I don't have to do it all on my own.
Yes. Well, it's so true what you're saying. We are social beings, and even our bodies. And when we're present in the room or even online, we synchronize. Like unconsciously, I notice what's going on in your body, whether your breathing is shallow or deep, or whether your voice is constricted or not, or there's so many subtle details that we're not aware of, but we're picking up. And when you're stressed, my stress can very easily go up, or the other way around. When you're calm, I can sort of hold on and use it as a beacon or a buoy to calm myself down. And so, yeah, it's very true what you say. When you resolve your triggers, so you don't react to every single stress trigger that's around, then others benefit as well, because they notice you're more calm, or they can bring bad news, or they can tell you something, give you feedback without you going haywire.
And how often do we not bring feedback because we know what the reaction is going to be, right? So you think in a work setting and you have something to tell a boss and you know what the reaction is going to be. And so then automatically is, well, I don't want to say that. And what are all the repercussions from that?
Yes, this is true. We don't express needs. We don't set boundaries as often, or where we should, or when we should, or we don't give honest feedback about how things could be easier or more efficient or more productive. And and you asked what things do people show up with, or what do they take from the coaching? They are usually these very basic themes. How do I take care of me? How do I take care of you? How do I take care of the process being as I like, according to my values?
Yeah. And one of the things that resonated with me, I did an interview with Miriam Nordeman, who works with parents out of Italy. And I remember her comment was very much, people are coming to me for the answers. And she said, you have the answers. My role is to guide you so you can get to that place where you can realize that you have the answers, right? So it's not me to tell you what to do. It's me to help you resolve the issues that are blocking you from knowing what to do.
So yes, absolutely, that does resonate with me, because we have so many skills we build up in as we go through life, and we don't have a lack of knowledge. We have support from other people. There's so much we can do, but as we get stressed, we get disconnected from the body. First of all, we're just this head with voices going, you should do this, I can't do that, I'm not able to, I can't deal with it, this is all going wrong, it's on me, it's on you. And it's so busy up there, and nothing is happening in the rest of the body. So we're not really connected to all of us. We don't feel what we can achieve. And so I think that's very true what Miriam is saying. As soon as you get reconnected, you feel grounded and aligned, then suddenly you feel, okay, this is a challenge I'm up to. What can I do? It starts your creative thinking going again. You reconnect to your resources, whatever they may be, internal, external.
You're not stuck in that reactive mode, right? You're not, yeah. And so when logosynthesis is a little bit different than, some of the researched therapies to help people cope with stress. So if you think of something like cognitive behavior therapy, which is about kind of retraining our behaviors and choosing differently. And yet a lot of times when we're under stress and we're in that moment where something triggers us, there's not really that space to choose our response, right? People get into that frozen reactions, we call it, or that panic mode, or whatever that reaction is. And so logosynthesis is different because it really does access or guides you to recognize what's happening in your body. So can you talk a little bit about, how we can reconnect with what's going on in the body without it sounding really foreign? Because sometimes it kind of sounds, oh, get in touch with what's happening in your body, and that sounds a little, I don't even know
Yeah,
what the term
yeah.
would be, but we're not used to talking that way, right? We're used to ignoring it and avoiding it. We're not used to taking a pause and saying, what's going on here?
How strange is that even, isn't it? I
Or that's
mean,
me anyway. Not everybody is
how
like that, but that's
no,
me.
but no, I suppose it's a cultural thing, but how we couldn't even live on this earth if we didn't have that body. And uh, I mean, we're not just a head that's being carried around. We're not just thoughts. We are a whole person, and especially our emotions. We can't be aware of our emotions if we're not feeling where they're located in the body. I mean, I can only be aware that I'm nervous if I feel this tingling feeling in my stomach, or I can notice that I'm anxious because there is a pressure on my chest, for example, or that I'm tense because my shoulders are up. So if we're not connected to the body, how are we going to know what's going on at all? Yeah. So I think working with logosynthesis, aside from the whole everything logosynthesis brings, is very useful in that aspect. That as you do the procedure, you have to check in. So it guides people, and as they do it more often, they actually learn to distinguish. Oh, this is a thought, and this is an emotion, and this is a physical sensation that I'm having. And being able to sort what's going on and being able to label it already gives gives a lot of clarity. And it actually, it's a process of learning to check in. And if people already know how to do this really well, then well, they're off quickly working with logosynthesis. And if not, well, that is one of the most useful things to get started with. And
Well,
yeah.
it's so often we end up saying, oh my God, I'm so stressed at work, right? And so then it's like I'm stressed, or I've got anxiety, I've got depression, I've got whatever the diagnosis is, right? But we end up bucketing all the physical sensations and all the emotions into that one word, stress. And when you start to say, okay, pay attention to which situations trigger which reactions. So, when I walk into work in the morning, something happens the moment I walk in the office. Okay, so what's happening the moment you walk into the office? Is that exactly the same as what's happening to you when the phone rings to handle a customer that you know is going to have an issue? And so when you start to break it down and pay attention to the different situations that are causing you distress, then you can start to resolve them issue by issue. And then before long, you start to notice I'm walking into the same chaotic environment, but I'm fine with it. Like my body isn't triggered into all these crazy stress responses. And then before you know it, as you're kind of calm in that environment, the whole environment kind of calms down, because instead of picking up the phone and having someone irate with you and you kind of hang up the phone or yell back, then that starts to give you a different way to respond, and it shifts the culture. So
Yes, absolutely. I think actually why we're often stuck is because these reactions are coming up in the body indicating, oh, wow, we're not happy. And at the same time, we're trying to suppress them with our thoughts and our stress management. And the two forces pushing against each other, that's what is costing so much energy. We're trying to deal with everything as it comes in. And we're trying to brush it away before it even fully unfolds. I'm
yeah,
feeling lonely. No, I'm not feeling lonely. I'm going out and with friends and having drinks. Or I feel stressed. I start to work really hard, or whatever. I mean, oh dear, my summer is going to be so busy. I should be happy. All these great things are going to happen this summer holiday. Like it's two competing forces almost, and we're constantly. And I think actually, sorry, I'm rambling, but cognitive therapy has a lot of that also going on. We have a thought, and then you're challenging it, and then you're creating a more productive thought, and there's nothing wrong in it, but it's hard work, and you have to keep it up all the time. And when you get tired, a negative voice starts screaming in
Where
your ear.
a lot of times when situations end up happening, if you're thinking of the kind of the conflict between the two, it's, you know, another individual or an outside situation. So then automatically we think it's the other person or the outside situation that is the issue. So you start working really hard to change the other person or to change the situation you're in, as opposed to just shifting your reaction to it. And to me, that is the by far the greatest benefit for me with logosynthesis, because when I can just shift my reaction and let people be who they are and do what they are without draining my energy and without stopping me from moving forward with connecting with people, right? Like instead of
Mhm.
getting upset, then I can listen better and say, I can recognize where you're coming from. So, yeah.
Yes, I agree. It's such a relief if you can let other people be, and if you can even learn to slowly let yourself be who you are without trying to change yourself into this superhuman being that is perfect and that's meeting all these shoulds and woulds and coulds. And yes, it's lovely if you can meet reality instead of trying to change what's happening because you have an idea of what should be happening.
Yeah. And what I run into sometimes is people say, well, Cathy, I can't let it go. Like, I can't let that issue, what that other person is saying, I can't just let it be because it's too important. And, I have to fight this issue because it goes against my values and, I can't just let it be. And a lot of times that we think the opposite of not fighting it is ignoring it, but really fighting is a stress response. And when we calm that stress response, then we're not fighting it, but it doesn't mean that it's not important. And so then we can have better conversations to address the issue and things along that line. Do you find that comes up in your work with people?
Yes, I think accepting doesn't mean that you have to agree with everything or that if there's something that's not the way you think it should be and there's anything at all you could be doing about it, then, why not work towards a solution?
When we end up working with this model and we become more present in who we are, so we're not constantly reacting to those issues that are causing us stress, if we think of the long-standing challenges that we have that we just can't quite get beyond, do you have any examples of working with someone that may have faced long-standing challenges that was finally able to shift them using logosynthesis?
Oh, yes. So the length of time I work with people varies a lot. But when you say this, I'm thinking of one client, a lady I have worked with over a longer period of time. And when we first met, her employer asked her to see me because she was having a lot of conflicts at work. She was running into trouble a lot. People would be unwilling to work with her, in fact, because she would be lashing out and seem very aggressive. And the odd thing was that when we had the very short telephone call to make the first appointment, I noticed that she was also triggering irritation in me, and nearly we got into a sort of verbal fight. And that never happened to me before. So I gave her the feedback that that was what was going on with me, and that got her interested. And she decided to come to the intake because at first she was not very motivated. Um, the intake was very interesting as well, but I think that was a very good start because that was when she said, "Okay, I will look at my pattern." And before then, she was actually blaming other people. She said, "Why do I have to come to coaching when other people have obvious problems in communication?" Which perhaps were true, but there was a constant factor as well, and that was that she was running into these conflicts. So when we started working and I got to know her, I realized that she had had a very traumatic upbringing, in fact, with a lot of adverse life events. And also, as she moved to our country, she had met racism. So she was, in fact, feeling very unsafe. And her lashing out was a reaction to all this. Um, so we started cleaning up some unfinished business from early on. And over time, she felt more energized. She felt more calm. She felt she could deal better with situations going on. She was able to listen to people. This was what she noticed, that earlier she would rush in with an answer or dominate people in a conversation, whereas now she could lean back and let other people speak. And she could inquire how the other had experienced something, what she was doing that was annoying them. So she got in a very proactive and positive flow. She moved to another job. And actually, I've been surprised with whenever something happened in her private life or in work, with how she has been dealing with it in the last month. She's been able to. There have been, things happen in all our lives, so um, she has been able to pool her resources to, acknowledge that she was angry or sad or disappointed, or first acknowledge her emotions and then pool resources, and also, bounce back really quickly and take
Yeah, because
realistic
life still
positive
keeps
action.
happening, right? Life still keeps happening. We can't control what shows up, but we can respond differently. Yeah.
Yes, the starting point, the basis. She feels much more grounded and solid, and she knows what helps her. She knows what friend to call, or she knows that when things get really bad, it soothes her to pray, and so she does what helps, and she has a well, far more positive experience now at work. So and every time she contacts me and tells what's going on, and I hear this, and I'm really happy.
Yeah. So isn't that a nice way to show up? I know a lot of times people initially come and say, it's not me, that's the issue. So the other people should be the ones doing the work. And yet when we position that what is it that bothers you, and we can relieve what bothers you, that to me is very refreshing, right? So, if you look at the person you just described, it sounds as if their life is much more fulfilling now if they're not constantly reacting to everyone around them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you think of, kind of a key message that you would like to leave with people, to help support them in their everyday lives at work and in their everyday life at home, what would your key message be?
I'm not about to tell people what to do. So I'm not going to say everybody start doing logosynthesis, because if you're feeling fine, then that's just perfect. But I do think it's a shame that people are not always aware of what's possible. So, if there are things that you want to deal with, if you have beliefs that you find limiting, or you have memories that you can't, let go of, or you have all these intrusive thoughts or fantasies about terrible futures, well, know that there is a tool that does have repeated influence, that you can shift your experience and live more easily. So in that case, go do logosynthesis.
And my experience about because we're human, just about everybody experiences this, right? So kind of having that awareness to know that something is possible and that there is something to help us enjoy life more fully is really refreshing to me. So thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. And I know that we've had a few little connection problems on this Zoom call, but thank you so much for your patience with us. We might have to do a little logosynthesis on that, but I feel pretty calm. How about you?
I feel pretty calm. We've had a good conversation. A little internet distortion doesn't phase us out.
Just in case we don't catch everything when I go back, but yeah, so I certainly appreciate your insights and really value the work that you do. And thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Thanks, Cathy. It's been fun.